The Galactic Council chamber fell into stunned silence as Ambassador Dravix collapsed to the floor, his seven-limbed body convulsing in death throes. His skin, normally a lustrous cobalt blue, faded to ashen gray as the neurotoxin completed its work. 63 representatives from the most powerful species in the known universe watched in horror as the first assassination in the Council's 12,000-year history unfolded before them. Commander Ilara Voss of the Terran Diplomatic Corps didn't flinch. While others recoiled, she strode forward, her boots clicking against the polished obsidian floor. The human's calm demeanor sent ripples of unease through the chamber as she approached the fallen ambassador. "This," she announced, voice carrying without amplification, "is what happens when you mistake human patience for weakness." High Counselor Madrax, the ancient Phrygian whose species had founded the Council millennia before humans discovered fire, leaned forward on his crystalline throne. His voice, like wind through ancient caverns, echoed through the chamber. "Ambassador Voss, you stand accused of murder on sacred ground. What possible justification could humanity offer for this barbarity?" Ilara's ice-blue eyes never wavered. "Justification? 3 days ago, the Nexil Imperium, under Ambassador Dravix's direct order, attacked the human colony on Proxima Centauri B. 800,000 civilians, men, women, children, all dead because you believed we wouldn't discover your involvement." The holographic displays hovering above the chamber floor flickered to life, showing orbital footage of massive energy weapons reducing cities to ash. The unmistakable design of Nexil warships hung in low orbit over the burning world. "Impossible," rasped Corv, the insectoid representative of the Mizar Collective. "The Nexil have been council members for 18 centuries. They would not violate our most sacred laws. And yet," Ilara continued, producing a data crystal from her uniform pocket, "we have the encryption keys, command signatures, and communication logs proving Dravix personally authorized the attack. A preemptive strike because the Nexil believed humans were becoming, how did he phrase it? Too influential for such a primitive species." The council erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some shouting accusations, others demanding evidence verification. Through it all, Ilara stood motionless beside the corpse, her posture military straight, face impassive. Grand Minister Lithur, whose gaseous form shimmered with agitation, floated closer. "Even if what you claim is true, Ambassador, this action violates every diplomatic protocol. The Council itself must determine guilt and punishment. You have potentially started an interstellar war." Ilara's laugh was short and cold. "Minister, you misunderstand. This isn't the beginning of a war." Her gaze swept across the representatives. "This is the only warning you will receive." Behind her, the massive council chamber doors slid open. 5 humans entered, each wearing the same charcoal gray uniform as Ilara. They moved with predatory grace, positioning themselves strategically around the room. "Admiral Rhodes," Ilara acknowledged without turning. The silver-haired man nodded. "Once. It's done, Commander. The Nexil homeworld has been blockaded. Their defense grid has been neutralized." Gasps and cries of disbelief echoed through the chamber. The Nexil defense network was considered impenetrable, a technological marvel that had withstood every conflict for centuries. "Impossible," cried the Nexil secondary representative, Toral. "Our planetary shields cannot be breached by any known weapon." "Known to you," Admiral Rhodes corrected quietly. "Humanity has been selective about the technologies we've shared with the Council." High Counselor Madrax rose from his throne, towering 12 feet tall, his ancient face contorted with rage and fear. "What is the meaning of this, Commander Voss? Do humans truly believe they can challenge the combined might of the Galactic Council?" Ilara's smile never reached her eyes. "Challenge? No, Counselor. This isn't a challenge." She gestured to the view screen, which now showed a fleet of sleek obsidian vessels emerging from jump space around key council worlds. This is a demonstration. 6 rotation cycles had passed since Commander Voss's unprecedented act in the council chamber. The Nexil homeworld remained under tight human blockade, their once mighty fleet reduced to scattered debris fields. Throughout, galactic space, previously unknown human warships had emerged from hiding, revealing a military presence that had somehow escaped the notice of the most sophisticated surveillance networks in the galaxy. In an emergency session, the council chamber buzzed with fearful speculation. Councillor Madrax presided over the gathering, his ancient face etched with new lines of worry. "How did we not see this coming?" demanded Orlix, the crystalline representative of the Luminar Concordance. "Humans have barely been spacefaring for 3 centuries. Admiral Nyxara of the Valkydian Defense Force, her scaled skin glistening under the chamber lights, manipulated a holographic display showing human vessel movements. Deception. For generations, they've projected an image of technological inferiority while developing capabilities in secret. The vessels we're tracking now utilize propulsion and weapons technologies centuries beyond what they've demonstrated previously. In the center of the chamber, floating in a containment field, rotated a recovered component from a human stealth satellite. Its design principles defied conventional understanding. Their quantum entanglement network explains their coordination," offered scientist delegate Zovri, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the artifact. "Real-time communication across interstellar distances without hyperwave detection. We thought it theoretically impossible." The double doors parted, and Commander Voss entered alongside a new human, Magistrate Riker Morell, whose weathered face and silver-streaked black hair gave him the appearance of one of humanity's ancient tribal elders. Unlike Voss's military bearing, Morell moved with casual confidence, taking the speaker's position as if he'd stood there 1,000 times before. "Distinguished representatives," he began without preamble, "I come authorized to negotiate terms." "Terms?" hissed Toral, the surviving Nexil representative. "You murder our ambassador, blockade our homeworld, and now speak of terms?" Morell's dark eyes settled on the Nexil, who involuntarily recoiled. "Your government authorized the murder of 800,000 human civilians. Consider yourselves fortunate we didn't respond in kind." "The Council has verified your evidence," Madrax acknowledged reluctantly. "The Nexil Imperium acted alone and in violation of our laws. But your response, Magistrate, threatens the stability of the entire galactic community." Morell nodded. "That's precisely the intention, Counselor. For too long, this body has operated under the assumption that humanity was the galactic equivalent of a well-behaved child, grateful for admission to your ancient club, willing to accept scraps of territory and technology." He activated his own holographic display, showing 3-dimensional maps of previously unknown human installations throughout Council space. "Reality differs. We've established hidden outposts in every major system. Our vessels can neutralize your most advanced defenses. Our intelligence network has penetrated your most secure communications." The chamber erupted in outcry until Madrax slammed his ancient staff against the floor, restoring uneasy silence. "What are your demands, Magistrate?" the High Counselor asked, his voice heavy with age and concern. "Surprisingly reasonable ones," Morell replied with a thin smile. "First, the Nexil leadership responsible for ordering the Proxima attack will stand trial under human justice." "Absurd," Toral protested. "Our sovereign—" "Second," Morell continued as if the interruption hadn't occurred, "humanity will receive a seat on the High Council, with all privileges and authorities thereof." Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber. No species had been elevated to the High Council without at least a millennium of membership. Third, all technology restrictions placed on human development will be immediately lifted. Scientist Delegate Zovri chittered nervously. "Some restrictions exist for the safety of all species, including humans themselves. We've already bypassed them," Morell stated flatly. This is merely formalizing the reality. And if we refuse these terms? Madrax asked, his ancient voice barely audible. Morell's expression remained neutral. Then we withdraw from council space entirely, taking our technologies and establishing an independent human sphere. Any incursion will be met with the full force of capabilities you've only glimpsed. He gestured to Commander Voss, who projected a final hologram, a recording of a barren moon suddenly reduced to asteroid-sized fragments by a single blast from an orbiting human vessel. That, Magistrate Morell said quietly, was fired at 5% capacity. The council chambers had never witnessed such division. 3 days of heated debate had fractured the once unified governing body into factions. The militant coalition, led by the warlike Draconid Imperium, advocated for immediate military action against the humans, arguing that surrender to their demands would embolden other species to similar defiance. The pragmatist bloc, comprising nearly 40 species including the ancient Phrygians, urged caution and negotiation. A smaller third faction, primarily younger spacefaring races, quietly suggested that perhaps humans had legitimate grievances, worth addressing. Elder Calaxia of the Solnari Ascendancy, whose species had evolved in the corona of a blue giant star, floated above her designated position, her plasma-based form rippling with agitation. We have maintained peace for 12 millennia by enforcing our hierarchical structure. If we grant humans high council status, every member species will demand similar elevation. The system collapses. And if we refuse? Countered Ambassador Zeth of the Aquilian Republic, his feathered crest flaring. You've seen their capabilities. My analysts estimate they could reduce half our combined fleets to scrap before we coordinated a response. From his crystalline throne, High Counselor Madrax watched the arguments with growing weariness. In 12,000 years of council history, no species had ever presented such a challenge. The humans had somehow hidden their true technological development, circumvented monitoring systems designed to prevent exactly this scenario, and now held a knife to the throat of galactic civilization while smiling politely. Outside the council chamber, Commander Voss stood at parade rest beside Magistrate Morell, both watching the debate via secure feed. 12 human military vessels now orbited the council homeworld, a flagrant violation of millennia-old security protocols that no one dared challenge. They're exactly as Admiral Caney predicted, Voss observed, divided by their own rigid hierarchies and assumptions. Morell nodded. The council's fundamental flaw: they've believed their own mythology for too long. When you've dominated galactic politics for 12,000 years, you forget what it's like to fight for your place. On the feed, Supreme General Vrokar of the Draconid slammed his armored fist against his podium. The massive reptilian warrior's translator barely kept pace with his rage. Will not bow to human threats. The Draconid have faced extinction 3 times in our history and survived. If humans want war, we will give them war. The door to their observation room slid open, admitting a human woman in civilian clothes. Director Astrid Novak of Terran Intelligence moved with the fluidity of someone who had replaced most of her original body with enhanced cybernetics. Another technology humans had publicly disavowed while secretly perfecting. We've intercepted communications, she reported without greeting. The Draconid are mobilizing their reserved fleets from the Cygnus Arm. They're considering a preemptive strike against Earth while the Council deliberates. Morell's expression didn't change. As expected. Admiral Durant? Standing by in the Sol system with the 7th Fleet, Novak confirmed. If the Draconid launch, they'll find nothing but carefully prepared surprises. Inside the chamber, the pragmatist faction had taken control of the floor. Ambassador Laurel of the Avendari, whose gossamer wings reflected light in hypnotic patterns, addressed the assembly with measured tones. We must acknowledge reality. Humanity has violated our protocols, yes, but they did so in response to an unprovoked genocide that we failed to prevent or punish. Our moral authority is compromised. The Nexel representative Toral chittered angrily. You would reward their barbarism with elevation to the High Council? They assassinated a representative on sacred ground after you incinerated 800,000 of their people, Laurel retorted sharply, an act that this council would have debated for decades before taking meaningful action. High Counselor Madrax finally rose, silencing the chamber. His ancient voice carried the weight of millennia. I have heard enough. It is clear we cannot reach consensus through traditional means. He turned his gaze to the human observers. Magistrate Morel, Commander Voss, the High Council requests your presence. As they entered the chamber, Voss noted the subtle shifts in posture among the alien representatives, fear from some, hatred from others, and from a surprising number, something that appeared almost like respect. Madrax gestured to the central platform. Humanity has presented us with terms. Before we render judgment, I would ask one question. The ancient Phrygian's eyes fixed on Morel. Why did humans conceal their true capabilities for so long? You could have claimed your place among us years ago. Morel's answer resonated through the silent chamber. Because, Counselor, we wanted to see if you were worthy of partnership, or merely management. The Draconid attack came at ship dawn by Council Standard Time. 16 dreadnoughts, each nearly 20 kilometers in length and bristling with weaponry that could crack planetary crusts, emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the Sol system. General Vrokar, commanding from the flagship Eternal Dominion, expected to catch Earth's defenses unprepared to deliver a decisive blow that would force humans back into their proper place within the galactic hierarchy. What the Draconid fleet encountered instead was an empty void, where Earth should have been. Impossible! Vrokar's scaled fist smashed into his command console. Where is their homeworld? His sensor officer, working frantically at her station, looked up with wide, vertical-pupiled eyes. General, spatial distortion detected. The entire Sol system appears to have been moved. Before Vrokar could process this inconceivable information, alarms blared across the command deck. Hundreds of small objects materialized around his fleet, each barely the size of a shuttlecraft. Scanning, the weapons officer reported. They appear to be unmanned drones. Minimal power signatures, no weapons detected. Vrokar bared his teeth in a reptilian smile. A desperate defensive measure. Target and eliminate. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission, audio only. The calm voice of Admiral Durant filled the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. General Vrokar, this is your only warning. The Sol system has been temporarily phase-shifted to protect civilian populations. Your vessels are currently surrounded by automated quantum field generators. Power down your weapon systems and withdraw, or face the consequences. Vrokar's laugh rumbled like distant thunder. The consequences? You send toys against the might of the Draconid fleet? Fire at will. When the Draconid fleet returned to Council space 7 hours later, it consisted of a single damaged cruiser carrying General Vrokar, now missing an arm, and the proud crest that had once adorned his head. The ship limped into orbit around the Council homeworld, broadcasting footage that sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The images showed Draconid dreadnoughts caught in impossible geometries as space itself folded around them, tearing the mighty vessels apart without a single energy weapon being fired. The human drones had generated overlapping fields that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality, turning the Draconid's own mass and energy against them. In the Council chamber, the mood had shifted dramatically. Fear had crystallized into grim acceptance. High Counselor Madrax sat in silence as Magistrate Morel stood before the assembly, his expression somber rather than triumphant. We regret the loss of Draconid lives, Morel stated. Their attack forced our hand, but the demonstration was deliberately measured. We could have destroyed their entire civilization. Instead, we chose to disable their fleet, while preserving most of their personnel. The Draconid representative, a hastily appointed junior diplomat named Crixus, looked up from her position, eyes burning with hatred and shame. "You humiliated the proudest warrior race in the galaxy. This will not be forgotten." "Good," Commander Voss interjected, stepping forward. "It shouldn't be forgotten. Remember it as the day the Draconid learned that pride without wisdom leads to destruction." From his throne, Madrax finally spoke. "The Council has deliberated and reached consensus. We recognize the unique position humanity now occupies. Your terms are accepted with one additional condition." Morell raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "Knowledge exchange," Madrax replied. "Your phase-shifting technology, your quantum manipulation capabilities, they violate what we understood as physical limitations. In return for your ascension to the High Council, you will share select theoretical principles with our scientific consortium." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Council rarely admitted ignorance of any kind, let alone requested technological insight from a younger species. Morell exchanged a glance with Voss before nodding. "We accept, with our own condition. The knowledge will be shared gradually, and only with species that demonstrate ethical application of their existing technologies." Ambassador Lorel of the Avendari fluttered her gossamer wings. "You presume to judge our ethics after your military posturing?" "Yes," Voss replied simply. "Because unlike the Nexel, who massacred our colonists, or the Draconid, who attempted to destroy our homeworld, we measured our response precisely to minimize loss of life. Power without restraint is merely brutality. Humanity learned that lesson through centuries of our own bloody history." A new voice cut through the tension. Elder Calaxia of the Solnari, her plasma form pulsing thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is why they concealed their advancements, not from fear or deception, but because they were waiting." "Waiting for what?" asked Zovri, the four-eyed scientist delegate. "For us to prove whether we deserved such knowledge," Calaxia replied. "Tell me, Magistrate Morell, am I correct? Were you testing us?" Morell's gaze swept across the council chamber, taking in the diverse species that represented the dominant civilizations of the galaxy. His voice was quiet, but carried to every corner. "For 3 centuries, we've watched how you treat emerging species, how you manipulate their development, restrict their territories, control their access to technology. We wanted to know if the Council was a community we should join, or an empire we should resist." One standard galactic year had passed since humanity's elevation to the High Council. The ceremonial chamber, once adorned only with the symbols of the 5 founding species, now displayed a 6th emblem, Earth's blue sphere wrapped in laurel leaves, positioned equal to insignia that had hung for millennia. The formal induction ceremony had been tense, with representatives from dozens of species watching warily as Admiral Kane, a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked auburn hair, took the oath of High Council membership. Many still viewed humanity's ascension as coercion rather than merit, but none could deny the changes that had followed. Today's session marked the first major reform proposal under humanity's influence. The cavernous main chamber was filled beyond capacity with minor species that had never before gained access to full council proceedings, now occupying newly installed seating areas. High Councilor Madrax, looking more ancient than ever, called the session to order. "We convene to discuss the comprehensive development initiative proposed by High Councilor Caney. The floor recognizes the human representative." Admiral Caney rose from the 6th High Council seat, a simple design of polished wood that contrasted sharply with the ornate thrones of the other 5. Her dress uniform bore minimal decoration despite her authority, another deliberate statement of human philosophy. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "for 12 millennia, This council has maintained stability through careful control of technological development. Species deemed immature have been denied access to advancements that might threaten established order. She gestured, and the chamber's holographic system displayed dozens of worlds, each populated by species in various stages of development. This approach has prevented conflicts, but at tremendous cost to innovation and progress. Today, I propose a fundamental shift, from restriction to mentorship. The chamber erupted in voices until Madrax's staff struck the floor 3 times. "Restoring order!" "Clarify your proposal, Counselor Caney," demanded Elder Calaxia, her plasma form flickering with agitation. "Gladly. Instead of restricting emerging species, established members will directly mentor their development. Technology transfer will be accelerated, but paired with ethical guidance and practical support." From the Draconid section, Representative Crixus stood, her new ceremonial armor gleaming. The Draconid defeat had paradoxically improved their standing. Having tested human capabilities firsthand, their assessment carried unexpected weight. "And who decides which species receives what technology?" Crixus challenged. "Will humans distribute their phase-shifting capabilities to primitive races who might accidentally erase themselves from existence?" Caney nodded respectfully to the Draconid. "Each mentorship will be tailored to the recipient species' unique development path. The goal isn't technological uniformity, but sustainable advancement." From his observation position near the chamber walls, Magistrate Morell watched with subtle satisfaction. Beside him, Commander Voss maintained her customary alertness, despite the peaceable proceedings. "They're adapting faster than we predicted," Morell murmured, indicating the council members now engaged in serious debate rather than outright rejection of Caney's proposal. "Fear is a powerful motivator," Voss replied, quietly. "But so is opportunity. Half of them have realized what humanity's knowledge exchange could mean for their own advancement." The debate continued for hours, with passionate arguments from all factions. The traditional powers sought to preserve their advantages, while younger species advocated enthusiastically for the reforms. Through it all, Admiral Caney listened more than she spoke, embodying the patience that humanity had demonstrated during their centuries of observation. When the final vote came, the result shocked even Morell. The Comprehensive Development Initiative passed with a narrow but decisive majority. As representatives filed out of the chamber, a commotion near the entrance drew attention. A delegation of beings never before seen in council space had arrived, tall, insectoid creatures with iridescent exoskeletons and compound eyes that reflected the chamber lights in hypnotic patterns. The Zirtal, Voss identified them, straightening, with surprise. An isolated species from the galactic rim, they've rejected all previous council contact attempts. The lead Zirtal approached Admiral Caney directly, bypassing traditional diplomatic protocols. Its translator produced a melodic, clicking voice. "We have observed from afar. Your species forced change where change was needed. We wish to participate in this mentorship program." Madrax, witness to 12,000 years of council history, watched in astonishment as a species that had rebuffed countless diplomatic missions now voluntarily sought involvement. After the Zirtal departed with arrangements to formalize their participation, the ancient Phrygian approached Caney privately. "In all my centuries," Madrax confessed, "I never imagined such a development. The Zirtal have been isolationists since we discovered them 4 millennia ago." Caney's expression remained composed, but her eyes revealed satisfaction. "Perhaps they were simply waiting for the right approach, Counselor. Not all species respond to hierarchy and restriction. Some require partnership and respect." Madrax's ancient eyes studied her. "Is that truly how humans see us now? As partners?" "That," Admiral Caney replied, depends entirely on what follows from today. 5 galactic standard years after humanity's ascension to the High Council, the Nexel representatives stood trial before a mixed tribunal of human and council justices. Former Imperator Kvalix and his war council faced the assembled evidence of their role in the Proxima genocide, communications logs, command authorizations, and testimony from their own military officers who had carried out the attack under protest. The proceedings were broadcast throughout council space, another human innovation that had initially faced fierce resistance. Traditional council justice had always been administered behind closed doors, with only the verdicts made public. Now, billions of beings across thousands of worlds watched as the architects of genocide faced accountability. In a private observation chamber, Admiral Caney sat with High Counselor Madrax, both watching the testimony in silence. The years of working together had forged an unexpected rapport between the human admiral and the ancient Phrygian. "They will be found guilty," Madrax observed. "The evidence is irrefutable." Caney nodded. "The question is, what happens after the verdict?" The Phrygian's ancient eyes turned to her. "You refer to the punishment. Human justice traditionally favors imprisonment or rehabilitation, while Nexil law would demand execution." "I was thinking beyond the punishment," Caney replied, "about how this public reckoning has already changed council space." On a nearby monitor, data streams showed unprecedented engagement across thousands of worlds. Species that had once accepted council decisions without question were now debating, analyzing, and forming their own conclusions about justice and accountability. "You've unleashed something dangerous, Admiral," Madrax said without accusation. "Transparency breeds questioning. Questioning leads to challenges. Challenges threaten stability. Or they create a more genuine stability," Caney countered, "built on informed consent rather than managed ignorance." Their conversation was interrupted as Commander Voss, now promoted to diplomatic director, entered with urgent news. Her formerly rigid military bearing had softened slightly over the years, though her eyes remained as sharp as ever. "We've confirmed it," she announced without preamble. "The signal from beyond the galactic barrier is artificial, and it's responding to our transmissions." Madrax's ancient form seemed to age further before their eyes. "Then the old legends are true. There are others beyond our galaxy." "Not just others," Voss clarified, presenting a data crystal. "Based on signal analysis, we believe they're survivors of the precursor civilization." The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. The precursors, the mythical species believed to have seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. Every major religion and scientific discipline in council space referenced them in some way, but actual evidence had been fragmentary at best. "How long have you known?" Madrax asked, his voice uncharacteristically emotional. "We detected the initial signal 3 years ago," Caney admitted, "but we needed to be certain before bringing this to the council. Director Novak has been leading the verification effort." Madrax's ancient eyes narrowed. "More human secrets?" "Prudent verification," Caney corrected gently. "Imagine the chaos if we announced contact with the precursors only to discover it was a natural phenomenon or a hoax." The ancient Phrygian studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. 5 years ago, I would have accused humans of dangerous ambition. Now, I find myself appreciating your caution." Director Voss activated a holographic display showing the signal analysis. "They're requesting direct communication with representatives of our galaxy, a meeting at the barrier itself." "Then the council must prepare a delegation," Madrax declared. "Our finest diplomats, scientists, and, with respect, Counselor," Caney interrupted, "they've specifically requested human representation." Madrax blinked his ancient eyes in surprise. "They know of humans specifically? How is that possible?" "Because," came a new voice as Magistrate Morell entered, "they've been watching us for a very long time. All of us. He placed another data crystal in the reader, revealing translations of the precursor communications. The ancient beings had observed the galaxy's development from afar, waiting for the emergence of a species that would break the cycle of control and restriction that had dominated council politics for millennia. They didn't vanish, Morell explained. They withdrew to observe their greatest experiment, the natural development of intelligent life across an entire galaxy. And they've been watching how we interact with each other. A test, Madrax whispered. All these millennia, not just a test, Caney corrected. An opportunity. They're offering to share knowledge beyond anything we've imagined, but only if we demonstrate we can handle it responsibly. And they believe humans have proven this? Madrax asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Not humans alone, Voss clarified.